The African Transformation Movement has called for a parliamentary inquiry into potential rand manipulation. This is following the recent dismissal of the Competition Commission's case against several major banks. But in a letter submitted to the Speaker of the National Assembly, ATM President Vuyo Zungula expressed concerns about the involvement of both national and international banks in the alleged rand manipulation. And he joins us now for more. Vuyo, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think talk to us about why you felt that this was the right approach for the party to push for a parliamentary inquiry. Are you not confident in the work done by the Competition Commission?
Morning. We are very confident in the work that has been done by the Competition Commission. We want to remind citizens that South Africa is no stranger of manipulation or collusion in the private sector. It happened in the construction industry before the building of the 2010 World Cup stadiums. It also happened when it comes to the bread fixing that happened a while back. Now, our call as the ATM is to say, given the work that was done by the Competition Commission and their limited scope, we understand that Parliament, as elected representatives of the people, must ensure that they give confidence that indeed we've got an institution which is Parliament that is safeguarding the interests of the people. This includes making sure that the scope of that investigation or inquiry, it is broadened. Number two, the Competition Commission was investigating between 2007 and 2013. Now, our view as the ATM is that one would not be confident to say between 2013 and now there was no rand manipulation that has been done by those particular banks. Also, when it comes to the fines that were given, there are reports that state that over R1 trillion was lost by the economy due to that practice per day when in that particular period. However, one fine that we were only made aware about was a fine given to Standard Chartered, which was for 43 million, which is a slap on the wrist for an international bank, and also versus what was lost by the economy given that period. Also, there's no charges that were leveled against any director for rand manipulation. So we want an inquiry that will deal with the substance and also deal with how can the powers of the commission be strengthened to ensure that they've got adequate powers to deal with this matter going forward, to prevent any occurrence of rand manipulation.
Yeah, I want to look at the, how all of this played out as the Competition Commission pursued the matter. I mean, 3 banks, of the 28 banks that were pursued by the Commission, 3 of the banks applied for leniency, 2 settled and were fined, and that's of course some of the fines that you're talking about there. One of them, of course, being Standard Chartered Bank. 4 appeals were not upheld. But it's interesting that you'd have banks like Barclays, for instance, and ABSA apply for leniency, right? What's the message that you take from that?
It means they are definitely guilty. Because you only apply for leniency when you know that indeed there has been wrongdoing on your part. So that is the bottom, that is where we want to get as the ATM, which is to get the culprits to get their appropriate sentences. Because one people when it comes to rand manipulation, it is the systematic impoverishment of people and the ripple effects it has when it comes to poverty, to livelihoods of the people being in danger. Because what then happens when it comes to rand manipulation is that the interest rates go up as a result of rand manipulation. From the rising of the interest rates, then it means there's an increase in cost of living, in food prices, in bond payments or in loan repayments, which then makes people to have less disposable income, and then people are in perpetual and debt, or people are in perpetual unhappiness because of the financial burden that they are having. And that financial debt that they are having, it is not because of natural causes, it is because of rand manipulation. And it is something that is systematic, because any rand manipulation that is done by the banks will affect people, either the poorest of the poor, the middle class, the rich. Everyone is going to be affected. So what we want then with this inquiry, we want Parliament to actually do its part when it comes to oversight, because Parliament has been criticized a lot when it comes to its weakness or failures, when it comes to holding accountable some of the crimes like your Steinhoff that were committed in our country. So we as the ATM want a functioning Parliament. We want a Parliament that is giving confidence to the people to say anything that is of concern to the people, including this rand manipulation. Parliament will act and also will seek to improve legislation to ensure to prevent any future occurrence.
Yeah, you know what's interesting for me is the involvement of international banks. So that, of course, we're talking about where the Competition Commission was investigating international banks, the Bank of America, for instance, Australia and New Zealand banking group as well. And so because now we're talking about international banks, the concern then is, could South Africa, in your view, have been the only target?
Definitely could not have been the only target. This is the phenomenon of currency manipulation happens in various parts of the world. However, what is troubling in our view is how, when it comes to other countries, the fines are hefty. Secondly, the directors of these banks are charged and are criminally charged, and some of them end up getting arrested and serving long prison sentences. The fine that we know of currently of the 43 million for the international bank, it is a slap on the wrist. It is nothing compared to what the earnings and the profits that that bank makes on a yearly basis. So to fine them over for 43 million for an investigation whereby you are saying that they may have been participating in rand manipulation between the years of 2007 and 2013, which is 7 years, but you only find them 43 million, which is nothing when it comes to the profits they make on a yearly basis. So we want now, as the ATM, South Africa not to be a playground whereby these banks, when they do these things in the other countries, they are dealt with harshly. But when they come to South Africa, they are able to get away scot-free, basically.
Yeah. You know, there's, of course, in some of the banks that I've mentioned here, Bank of America, Australia, New Zealand, these are banks, of course, the 13 that have appealed the findings, and they will be heading to the Constitutional Court. But their appeal was upheld. This is based on the argument that they've put forward, that the Competition Commission lacked jurisdiction and a lack of evidence. So I'm keen to hear what a parliamentary inquiry is going to do when even the very assertion that the Competition Commission lacked jurisdiction and evidence. What is an inquiry going to do? And do you not think that perhaps South Africans are inquiry fatigued?
No, this one inquiry is very necessary. Like you've just stated, the limitations when it comes to the jurisdiction of the Competition Commission. Now, when it comes to Parliament, there is nothing that is of interest to South Africans that is impacting the livelihoods and the lives of South Africans that Parliament would be, stated that it does not have any jurisdiction. Now, when done by Parliament, because Parliament is a law-making institution, Parliament will, out of its own mechanisms, introduce legislation, improve mechanisms to safeguard South Africans when it comes to making sure that we have laws that are able to prevent any abuse or any rand manipulation that could happen in future. Also, given the assertion that there are jurisdiction problems or limitations when it comes to the Competition Commission, the then inquiry is going to say, given these limitations of the Competition Commission, this is how we can improve its legislative mandate or framework to make sure that in future it does not encounter any problems when it comes to dealing with such issues. Therefore, give it more powers, give it more teeth to bite. So basically, this inquiry is going to do basically that, which is to review the current legislation and strengthen the legislation, and over and above that, make sure that there's appropriate sentences that are leveled against any wrongdoers when it comes to rand manipulation.
Yeah, and any sort of idea on what those legislative changes need to be, Vuyo?
The first issue would be the question of jurisdiction, making sure that you do have a competition commission that is not confined or is not limited when it comes to the question of investigating any wrongdoing when it comes to the banks, regardless whether the bank it is a South African-owned bank registered in the JSE or it is registered in another jurisdiction. But when it comes to its conduct in South Africa, in the South African economy, or in the conduct of its conduct that impacts the livelihood of South Africans. We must have institutions in our country that are going to investigate thoroughly such conduct, and they must not be limited or confined.
Yeah, so at the moment, though, you have, what, 2 seats in Parliament, right? What's the plan moving forward to get this inquiry up and running in Parliament?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
With your seats in Parliament, what's the plan moving forward to get this inquiry up and running? What's your plan of action?
We've written to the Speaker. We received an acknowledgement. We are going to push that this is heard because it must start with a debate. And in that debate whereby parties are going to state their positions, then South Africans are going to see which parties actually want to get to the bottom of any wrongdoing that is done by the private sector. And I do want to repeat this point. There is this view by South Africans that any corruption or wrongdoing that is done by the private sector, Parliament seemingly does not have the appetite to deal with that. So we want parties in that debate to actually state their stand, whether they want Parliament to inquire, because a parliamentary inquiry is an inquiry. It is inquiring, it is investigating any wrongdoing for the sole purpose of ensuring that its institutions are strengthened. Secondly, there is appropriate punishment for all of the people that are involved in rand manipulation.
All right, Vuyo, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. He is, of course, the president of the Africa Transformation Movement, Vuyo Zungula, this morning, saying that they are calling for a parliamentary inquiry into potential rand manipulation.